You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Blessings, everybody. Happy Sunday. It is your girl, your diva, in knowledge, your spiritual sister. I go by the name of Lady Mocha, or you can simply just call me Mocha. And this is my channel, Mocha's Ladies Lounge, in which I share spiritual awareness from a spiritual mindset. So anybody who's been following me for quite some time know that when it comes to me sharing my spiritual awareness, that in most instances the content that I do is very much beneath the surface, while a lot of people choose to speak upon things above the surface. It's very rarely that you have many that speak upon things beneath the surface, meaning that it goes past just the basic concept of, gossip, of, tea, of, perspective about reality shows. And even though I do speak upon these things from time to time, and I do not knock other content creators who do speak on those things, because I actually follow a lot of these ladies, and also they add more to their content than just tea. They also add their own truth, and they also share their own wisdom. But me, on the other hand, I specifically like to address things from a spiritual perspective, for the most part. So just thought I would share that with each and every one of you who are not familiar with me, or who have been rocking with me for quite some time, but still need a better perception as to what my ultimate goal of what my channel is basically, the foundation of which my channel is built upon, which is basically a spiritual, not religious, but spiritual aspect. Okay, all right, because I don't do organized religion, but I'm very spiritual, and I do believe in my Lord and my Savior. So let's get in today's content sermon. For that part, first of all, what I'm getting ready to speak upon is very triggering. So this is a trigger warning sermon. So I'm going to go ahead and just briefly put in my trigger warning. The reason I stated that this is going to be a trigger warning sermon is because a lot of women, particularly since the majority of my audience on this channel are women subscribers or female followers, when it comes to talking about children, it's a very, very sensitive subject, and a lot of women get very offended when anytime children are being addressed. They will tell you, I like your content, but I don't like when you address, Martell's and Arion's son as little helmet. When you make up names, when you target the child, when you talk about the child. So I'm here just to let you know right now that I am going to continue to keep doing that. And if it really offends you and it really upsets you to the point you just can't, receive the message, that it just ruffles your feathers, it just disturbs your spirit. Anytime I say the word little helmet, or little Chucky, or bastard child, if it really rubs you the wrong way, you are welcome to exit the congregation. I'm not going to change how I deliver my message, because as long as I'm not cursing about the child, or saying his name and specifically addressing him in a very disrespectful manner, I'm going to continue to teach and stand on what I stand on. And for those of you who are offended by it, keep in mind, a bastard child is a child that was created through two unwed individuals, through individuals, one was married and the other one was not married. A child conceived in a marriage, okay? All of this defines a bastard child. And I realize the reason that most of you are going to get offended is because y'all have bastard children, okay? And nobody wants to be told that their child is a bastard child, okay? Because it does sound very degrading, and bastard sounds like a very insulting word. But this is what the Bible says, okay? So again, I will not change how I deliver my sermons. You're welcome to exit the congregation. And those of you who come on my content telling me what I should say and what should not say, and I'm a full-grown woman, and this is me, this is how I do things, I will boot you from the congregation. So my advice is, just don't even leave a comment. Don't even listen to what I have to say. If it offends you that bad, it's better to not listen to what I have to say than to listen to what I have to say and come in my comment section and tell me what I should or should not say. Last time I checked, my mother is named Miss Felicia Johnson, and that's the only person other than God who has authority over my life and has some type, and to a degree, has some type of leverage when it comes to how I should address things. And even on that note, if I feel me addressing things the way I want to address it is not out of alignment, and I'm still not even going to change it on that level. So I'm just letting y'all know that, because it's grown women coming to other people's content, telling us how to talk, telling us what to say, what not to say, and y'all got the audacity. Y'all don't run nothing up in here. I don't know who y'all think y'all are. And that's the reason why a lot of people stop going to church, because y'all think y'all can tell people how to speak the word, how to preach the word, and it's okay to talk on this scripture, but please don't talk on adultery, because see, I got a son from a married man, and I got a daughter from a married man. Y'all sensitive about things only because you know you're out of alignment. If you were not out of alignment, you wouldn't be feeling some type of way. So if you're offended, only thing I tell you is to kick rocks with open-toe shoes, and it is what it is. So I want to talk about, on today's sermon, and again it's trigger warning because it's talking about children, and it's also talking about little helmet, and a lot of y'all are going to get offended because, again, women by nature, they get very offensive anytime there's content or subject about children. But I find it funny that y'all don't get offensive by the side chicks. I find it funny y'all don't get offensive by the married men. Y'all don't get offensive by that. Y'all get offensive by children. Because as we all know, like a lot of people say, children are innocent. Yes, they are. But this is the problem, queens. The way they were conceived and produced is not innocent. And therefore, children that have been conceived out of adultery, they are living proof. They are a living shattered consequence of what happens when you have two irresponsible, neglectful individuals who come together and conceive a child out of lust, out of desperation, and out of disrespect of a marital union. So again, today's sermon is most likely going to cut deep, because you do have a lot of Arians out there. You have a lot of women who have children from married men. And this is where I come in, where I am going to unclothe and make people feel very naked, meaning embarrassed, because there's a lot of things I'm going to be addressing about this. So let's get into how the sins of an unfaithful father fall upon his son. What a lot of us as parents, if you are a parent, if you're not a parent, and hope to one day become one, this message is also going to be very essential to you as well. Keep in mind that having a child is a gift. It's a blessing. And it's unfortunate that some people, for whatever reason, will not get to experience the pleasures and the privilege of bringing a life into this world, because there are just some things medically that's beyond their control, or if not that, they don't feel safe conceiving due to everything that's transpiring within the world. Some women are opting out of having children, not because they have a medical issue, but because of all of the troubles and worldly issues that are occurring within the world. They just don't feel safe bringing a life here. So we're not going to discredit women because they don't have children and figure something got to be medically wrong. Some women just don't like the way things are transpiring with the world, or they're not having children because they have not found the right man. They want to be married. They want to make sure when they bring a child into this life, it's going to be a child that's not going to suffer for her poor choices, or because she chose a man that is not father material. So you have a lot of women that are being wise. They're waking up and they're not having children just to say they have a child. They're being very protective of their womb, and they're being very selective of the man that they choose to have their children from. And if you are a woman that is doing this, I commend you, because there's a lot of pressures in society that if a woman does not have children, she's not a woman. And that's far from a myth. It's the stereotype that if a woman does not have a child by the time she's 35, her eggs are going to rot out. Her eggs are going to be out of commission. It's a lot of, ignorant ideologies that are being promoted from YouTube content creators, from society, from celebrities, that if you don't have a child, or it's that hood mentality, if you don't have a child by 35, your eggs will be fried. And it's far from the truth. God has his own timing, and when you trust him and when you wait on him, and you're not out here just having children because you want to beat the biological clock, and you're not out here trying to lock a man into your life because you're afraid that he's going to leave, and the only way you can keep him in your life is by entrapping him with the child that both of y'all neglectfully chose to have together without wearing protection. It's a lot of women that have had children for the wrong reasons, and now they are suffering. They are paying the price for it. And what you have to realize, a child is a blessing, and God holds us accountable for how we bring these children in his life. He holds us accountable for how we treat our children when we bring them in his life. And make no mistake about it, anything that you do on this earth, anything that you have done to destroy the characteristics of another person, anything that you have done to harm a person, anything that you have done to try to bring a person down, realize that karma has no expiration date. And also definitely keep in mind that if you are children, if you have children, keep in mind that karma can skip you and target your children. All of that comes with being a parent. So you have to be careful and mindful of how you treat people and how you disrespect people, because when you have children and somebody starts disrespecting your children and mistreating your children, it's not funny when people treat your children the way you have treated others. And it's very sad that a lot of your children are not going to be blessed abundantly because of how you brought them here into this life, because of your arrogance and your ignorance, and the fact that you put your children on a pedestal like they are the best thing since God's creation, like they can do no wrong, like they these perfect human beings. And the truth of the matter is, none of us are perfect. We all got faults and we all have flaws, and it's very sad that you have a lot of women out here that will not discipline their children because they think they're just so precious and they're just so handsome, or the fact that your son looks so much like the father that you're still in love with, the man that you still desire, that you have an unhealthy incestuous infatuation with your son. And yes, I said it, ladies, because a lot of y'all are lusting over y'all sons that look exactly like their fathers, to the point that some of y'all even dress y'all sons like their fathers. That you are lusting over your sons like you're still lusting over the fathers. And it's very unhealthy when a woman constantly posts pictures of her son on her social media account as if he's her man, talking about how sexy he is, how handsome he is, how her son is her man crush Monday. Now, I'm not saying anything is wrong with complimenting your son. Every once in a while, you post pictures of him. But some of you women, and you know who you are, y'all are very infatuated with your sons that you had from men who no longer find you appealing or find you desiring. Men who have moved on and been remarried or incarcerated or whatever the case is. You're using your son as a replacement for the man in whom you still really have feelings for. And you put all that love and energy into your son, and it's unhealthy. It's an incestuous type of vibe in which you are lusting over your son. And we'll talk more about that another time. Okay? So, when we talk about having children, children are supposed to be a blessing from God. And we don't abuse that privilege by bringing these children here in a disgraceful manner. However, you have a lot of these unfaithful married men who do not value marriage, who do not value their marital vows they made before God. And because of that, married men get themselves involved in marriages knowing that they are still struggling with lust, knowing that they are still struggling with temptation. And instead of these individuals seeking God, seeking spiritual advisement from other men who have been there, who have done that, who have failed terribly at their marriages due to not being disciplined enough to keep their penis in their pants, what a lot of these men choose to do is they deal with their problems by stepping outside of their marriage, which is basically putting themselves in the danger zone, because anytime a man steps outside of his marriage, there's a high probability that he's going to bring something damaging and permanent into his marriage that he's not going to be able to get rid of. For one, he's going to bring mistrust. And once you don't have trust in your marriage, you don't have anything. Two, he can possibly bring home a STD, a sexually transmitted disease, gonorrhea, syphilis, anything that is damaging to a woman's, to his wife's well-being, to his wife's health, in which his wife can end up on medication for the rest of her life, when she's done absolutely nothing wrong but been faithful and been his wife. It's been stories in which women have conceived STDs from their unfaithful partner, and they were the ones that was never unfaithful. That's how dangerous it is when your significant other does not respect his marital vows. Or third, they can conceive another life, which is a child, outside of their marriage. Either way, all three of these things that I just mentioned are not good, and they're not healthy, and they are lifelong damaging, altered changes that will forever impact your health, your well-being, and your marriage. So it's very imperative that anybody who is stepping outside of their marriage, if you have not contracted any of these things, that you definitely reconsider, is it worth it? Is it worth losing your trust? Is it worth bringing home STDs to a person who did not cause this, who did not bring this upon themselves? Or is it even worth bringing another child who's not going to be privileged, who's not going to really have the blessings of having a healthy parenting leadership over his or her well-being? So as we go into talking about this, we're going to go directly into talking about the effects of what an unfaithful father has upon his son. Now, keep in mind, even though my title says upon his son, it's upon any child, whether if it's a girl or a boy. But in this instance, we're talking about the son, okay? And I want to keep it simple as I could, because when I start bringing too many different concepts into the message, people get lost. So in this instance today, we're going to keep it simple and just basically speak upon a man and his son. So in this instance, we're going to basically be talking about Martell and his son, 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. Okay? Because I'm not going to say his real name. Let me start off by saying that it is not 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼's fault that he was conceived. It is his parents' fault. It is Arion Air Mattress, and it is Martell Hope who brought this child into this world for selfishness, through their lust, through their ignorance, and through their negligence. It is their fault. It will always be his parents' fault. It is not his fault. It's his parents, Arion Air Mattress, and Martell Hope. It's their fault this young man was conceived. So we're going to speak upon wisdom. I'm going to speak upon wisdom. But children born of adultery or of a forbidden union will die an early death. Yet, even if they do live a long time, they will never amount to anything. They will never be respected in their old age, and if they die young, they will have no hope or comfort on Judgment Day. Children born of forbidden union suffer a miserable fate. It is better to have virtue, even if it means having no children. Your virtue will be recognized by other people and by God, and you will be remembered for it forever. Virtue provides an example for people to follow. When it is not there, they miss it. It has always been the finest prize a person can win, and it will always be so. It is the noblest of all good qualities a person can have. So, getting back into this particular passage that I just read, right? Children that are born out of adultery, out of lust, they're going to have a hard time surviving this life. They just are. And I know this is a trigger warning because again, a lot of women have had children from men who were already married or in a relationship. So again, they're going to get very offensive by this message, and it is what it is. Whenever you have a child from a married man, you automatically put that child at default. And this is the reason why. You put that child at default because that child will never really be able to experience that real, genuine, authentic love that his siblings have with their father and their mother. So, in other words, if you choose to have a child from a married man, keep in mind that your child will not get the same privileges as the children that the married man you had your child from and his wife together has. It's just not going to, the chances of it happening is going to be very slim, because 9 times out of 10, the wife is not going to be accepting of that child, and righteously so. And for you women that are quick to be triggered and say, well, it is not the child's fault. Well, why will she accept her husband? Well, why she can't accept my child? The child didn't do anything wrong. The child is innocent. Why is it that she will still stay married to her husband, even though he has a child out here, but at the same time she will dismiss the child and the child is innocent? Keep in mind, that wife was married to that husband first before he violated his marriage by stepping outside on her having that child with you, and you made the decision to keep that child and to have that child, whether if you knew or didn't know. And that's why, as a grown woman, you should do your own research and make sure these men are not married, because all this, oh, I didn't know he was married, is playing out and it's not working, and it's not an excuse that you're going to be able to keep getting by with, because you're still going to have to live with the consequences. The wife has a right to stay in her marriage. Whether if you think that's stupid or dumb or ignorant, it was most stupid and dumb and ignorant to get pregnant from a man that you know was married, or get pregnant from a man without finding out that he already didn't have a family or he wasn't married. So a side chick can never have her opinion on what a married woman should do with or with her husband, with or without her husband. If she wants to keep her marriage, she has the right to keep that. You, as the outside woman who had the child, you don't get to dictate. You have no rights on what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. That foundation was already established before you decided to get in the picture. True indeed, the husband was wrong for violating his marriage, but you being a willing participant does not excuse you from not being able to have to suffer the consequences like he will be suffering the consequences. Okay? So your child is less than likely, unless that wife is strong enough and willing to accept that child and treat that child as her own. If she's not, your child will be treated like an outsider. Your child will not be treated special. This is what you sign up for when you decide to have a child from a married man. Just because that married man and his wife lives in a big old beautiful fine home, that does not mean your child will get to live in that beautiful fine home. Just because that married man has children from his wife and they go to private schools, they wear the best of designer labels, it does not mean that your child is going to be privileged to go into private school or have a designer labels. Now, in some instances, you have some men that will try to ensure that that outside child is just as privileged as the children he has at home within his marriage. However, it will never ever be the same, because that child will never truly be accepted. So even if he's giving you everything that he's giving that child everything that he's given his wife children that he had with her, that child will never really feel that acceptance that is owed to them. And that just comes with the territory. And you have a lot of women, outside women, like Ariana Air Mattress, who get very angry at that. They have a child from a married man, and they have the audacity to think that that child is supposed to be granted the same privileges as the children he had from his wife. They're not understanding. Why are me and my son staying in a 2-bedroom apartment when him and his children and his wife live in a 5-bedroom home? Well, dear, if you paid attention and you used your discernment and discretion, you would have known that foundation had already been established way before you made the decision to have this child. And the foundation is not going to change just because you decided to have a baby. It's not going to change. True indeed, he is wrong. And he's going to always be wrong. But that fort was already established before this child came in the picture. So, therefore, that wife does not owe it to her husband who violated her, or to the side chick that the child they had together in violation of her should automatically be privileged, the same privilege as the children she had from her husband. You don't get to choose. You don't get to dictate. And the problem is when side chicks come to that conclusion that they don't get to dictate or intervene in the foundation that was already built, that's where the disrespect comes in at. That's how come Ariana Air Mattress felt it was okay to disrespect Mel because she was angry at the fact that Mel would not assist Martell with being able to privilege her son with everything that Melody's children was privileged with. And you have a lot of outside children, you have a lot of side chicks with outside children, they get angry at the wife. They get angry at the husband, the married man who they chose to have unprotected sex with. And this is where the bitterness, this is where the messiness, this is where the side chicks create confusion, create chaos, because she realizes that having that child is not going to give her that dream for her son that she sees the wife and the married man is actually fulfilling for their children. She wants her son to have the best, like his kids have the best. And if you wanted your children to have the best, you should have chosen to conceive your child from a man that was your husband. That way you wouldn't be on the outside looking in, wondering when, if, and where your child is going to be accepted and treated right. Because that wife does not have to accept your child. In marriage has ups and downs, trials and tribulations. And even though everybody on the outside is going to say the wife is stupid, the wife is dumb, why are you still married to him? He could have brought you home a disease. He could have did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Although all of this is true, the whole bottom line is that was her husband. And she has the right to decide if she's going to stay or if she's going to leave. Whether you think it's stupid, whether if you agree, whether you disagree, whether you think she's a weak woman for it, it does not matter. She does not owe it to the side chick to accept her child or leave her marriage. And I find the irony of it that if the shoe was on the other foot, the side chick would not accept it either. The same women, and women are one of the most hypocritical creatures on this planet. Women who will sit up here and say that it's not wrong, it's wrong for a woman not to accept an outside child. These are the same women that if the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't accept it. All this, well, if it was me, I would accept. But guess what? It's not you. And it's easy for you to say that because you are part of the violation. You was a participant in the violation. So, of course, it's easy for you to say what you would accept and what you would not accept. The outside children, because of the sins of the unfaithful father, is automatically going to have shattered dreams due to the consequences of being a part of a violation in which they absolutely had no control over, because again, children are innocent and children did not ask to be here. However, that outside child would never have the same privileges as the children that were conceived in the same household between two married parents. Secondly, the child is going to feel a strong sense of isolation. Even though there's been situations in which parents have divorced or parents have separated because there was a child involved, and the child was able to have access to the siblings that was created within the marriage. What it does is it already puts a strain between the siblings, because the siblings that were married, they're confused. They're not understanding where this other child comes from. Children are smart, and children have way more wisdom than what we give them credit for. So you have these children who were born and raised in the same household under their married mother and married father through their marriage. They're used to being in an environment in which a family has been established, and out of the blue comes this outside child that they know was not conceived through their married mother and their married father. So what this does is it psychologically puts a strain with the children who was conceived within the marriage. Because mentally, they're not able to comprehend and understand something is not right. Yes, mom and daddy had us. Yes, mom and daddy was married when they had us. We were all raised under the same household. Who is this other sibling and where did he come from? It's psychologically damaging because children are wise. And if they witness in any shape or form their mother cry or mentally break down behind the conception of this child, this further psychologically damages the children that have to witness the pain that their mother encountered during their father's selfish, lustful act. So when these children start putting the pieces together that this other individual is not a child that's been conceived from our mommy and daddy, and we've witnessed mommy crying, we witnessed mommy upset, they're going to automatically have some type of resentment against this outside child because they psychologically and mentally are going to understand that this child has something to do with mommy and daddy divorcing. So the bastard child is already causing confusion, and he has no real knowledge as to what he's doing wrong. He has no real knowledge to why he's being treated differently, why he's being perceived differently. He doesn't understand. He can't comprehend it. Because he's a child. And he's not old enough to understand adultery, sin, and how, all of these things come together. So, the children that was conceived within the marriage know that something is not quite right. They just have not been able to emotionally and physically put the pieces together. They haven't formulated daddy had sex with another woman other than mommy, so therefore that is how we got this other sibling. Because for one, children think the world of their parents, and especially their father, especially when the father has been in the same home with them, has been predominantly present and raised there. We're not talking about a deadbeat, a man who has no active part in the child's life. But the fact that the father has always been there under the same roof, whether if he's a ain't crap husband or whatever, children see their fathers as heroes. I'm certain that Mel's children seen or always perceived Martell as a hero. Now, I'm not sure mentally where they are now after this has gone on for quite some time. We're talking about 3-4 years or whatever since little Helmer was conceived. But children see their fathers as heroes. And it's hard for them to be able to comprehend that their father made a decision very detrimental that caused a dent, a collision in their family unit. This is how deep this gets for all of y'all who want to keep having empathy and sympathy for an outside child, not having empathy or sympathy for the children that was conceived within the marriage, what they are psychologically going through. They're looking at this man as their hero. They don't know where this other child came from. But what they do know is something's not right. This is not mommy's child, like we are all mommy's children, where did he come from? And the fact that you have a father that's not man enough to sit down and tell you his bad decisions and how it got to this point of this other child being conceived. So this further confuses the children. Because instead of the father taking accountability and explaining to them, because it's out of respect that he explains to his children who he had with his wife, instead of lying to them and bringing this child, introducing this child to them like this child was just a package he got off of the Greyhound bus, it confuses the children. And in turn, it makes them even more resentful later on down the line as they get older, because they were not told the truth. When children are told the truth, they are able to process it better and able to better accept it. Put yourself in Eminem, well, they're not the M&Ms anymore, the nuggets, the 4 golden nuggets. Picture being raised up in the same house with your 4 siblings. And all of y'all share the same mama and the same daddy. You're used to daddy helping you with your homework. You're used to on Saturdays and Sundays, daddy grilling on the back porch, grilling some hot dogs and hamburgers. You're used to mommy being right there, seasoning hamburger patties. You're used to doing all of these family things, living like a family, being a family with your mother and your father. You're used to traveling, going places with your mother and your father. You used to doing sports or doing recitals or doing school plays with your mother and your father there. And one day out of the blue, your parents separate. And you can't quite put the pieces together why mommy no longer wants to be with daddy anymore. But you're noticing now the family unit is different. Daddy does not live under the same roof anymore. He's not grilling on Saturdays and Sundays like you're used to him grilling hamburgers and hot dogs. He's no longer coming to the sports events as much. If he does, he comes alone. Him and mommy and daddy don't come together like they used to do when they were together. When they do show up to your events, when they do show up to your sports events, when they do show up to your school plays, when they do show up to special events in your life, they're not riding together in the same car as a family. Mommy rides and drives us there, and we just so happen to see daddy coming in. He's sitting on one side of the auditorium. Our mommy is sitting on one side of the auditorium. When once upon a time y'all was used to that family unit in which mommy and daddy always sat together and did everything together. So y'all are separated. Your parents are separated. You're not understanding why mommy is the only one now getting up every morning, getting you dressed, taking you to the bus stop, getting you ready for school, and your daddy is no longer there, at least doing his part that you're used to him doing. You're used to your daddy checking behind your mom. Did y'all brush y'all teeth? Do y'all have y'all school books? Mommy's doing all of that now because her and daddy are separated. Daddy's not there anymore, but you're not understanding why. Months down the line, it's time for you to go visit daddy. So you're still adjusting as a child to this change in your life, and you're still not comprehending what's going on from the mind of a child. Why is mommy and daddy not together? Why daddy don't live here anymore? Why daddy is not helping mommy make breakfast every morning like we used to him doing? Why is mommy and daddy not taking turns picking us up and dropping them off from school? The children have gotten used to a routine because there was a family foundation that was already established before daddy went and did what he did. So now your mommy drops you off to your daddy. This is new to you because daddy has his own house. You have to mentally get used to mommy has her own house now and daddy has his own house now. So now on the weekends, you got to go to daddy's house. This is weird for you as a child who's used to having both of your married parents together. So you go to your daddy's house, and out of nowhere, there's another child at your dad's house. You and your siblings are confused because you don't know where this child came from. And your father tells you, oh, this is your brother. Pause. Let's have a moment on that. Let's have a moment of silence on that. Your father tells you this is your sibling. As a child, how are you supposed to process that? Your daddy tells you this is your brother. Do you understand the psychological damage? The confusion? So why everybody's having empathy and sympathy for the bastard child? Is there not any for the children that was conceived in the marriage? And your father does not explain to you how the child got here. He just tells you this is your brother. And he just accepts you to play with him. Accept him being there. Sharing the same room with this child. Sharing the same space with this child. That did not come from your mommy. You don't know who this child is. You don't know who this child comes from because your father is not man enough to explain. And he should have did that before he abruptly put that little boy in his children's face that he had from his wife. What he should have done, if he was a real man, before they even met Little Helmet, he should have had a conversation with him and with them and Mel. And we saw the first couple of seasons in which he had a conversation with the kids, but Mel was not present. And she said that she wanted to be present because she wanted to make sure her children were clear on what really happened, because she knows, like I know, like we all know, that Martell is a liar and that he's not going to be transparent and really say what happened. So what he did was took the car and the cheap shot, and he told those kids within his own way, because he really didn't want to be clear and transparent and admitting as to how this child really got here. What he should have said was, listen, Daddy did a bad thing. Daddy made a bad mistake. The reason that me and your mommy were not living up under the same roof anymore is because Daddy did not respect his marriage. When you are married, a husband and a wife is supposed to always be together. And what happened was, me as your daddy, I chose to be with someone else instead of just being with mommy. When you're married, it's just supposed to be two people together. And me as your father, I did not honor that. It was just supposed to be me and your mommy. And what I did was step outside the situation and got myself involved with another woman that was not your mommy. And because of that, Daddy did wrong. And because Daddy did wrong, and Daddy was involved with somebody else other than mommy, Daddy conceived another child that is now a part of my life, in which I have to also take care of him like I take care of all of you. Learn from Daddy. Don't do what I did. If one day you ever decide to get married when y'all get older, you respect your husband, you respect your wife, and you don't step outside of your marriage like Daddy did. What he could have done was taken his his bad decision and used it as a lesson to teach his children, so they would have had a better understanding. But what he did was get them alone so he can lie and twist the narrative. And that is the reason why these children, as they get older, they're never really fully going to accept Little Helmet, because his introduction was made out of a lie. And Martell did not have the respect to make sure Melody was there to confirm that the children were being told the truth correctly. So this further is going to put a wedge between the married children, the children within the marriage, versus Little Helmet that was conceived outside of the marriage. So now it continues to unfold. Now you're already going to have siblings at war over a lie, over selfishness. And now, somehow in some way, they're going to encounter the outside chick. Why? Because the outside chick is the mother of the sibling in who their father violated the mother for. So how do you think the children are going to feel about the side chick, knowing that this woman played a part in the ending of their family unit, knowing that this woman had disrespected their mother? How are children who was raised together from this a married man and a married woman, how are they supposed to be open to accepting Little Helmet and Little Helmet's mother? And as I stated before, we underestimate children. Children know more than what we give them credit for. If you think those children don't know how often Air Mattress has disrespected their mother, you are sadly mistaken. They know, because Martell wasn't man enough to protect his married children from his adulterous situation. He did not separate them. He brought them together. By no means he should have been putting his married children with his outside son, putting them together like this is one happy family reunion. We all should just get together and accept each other. He could have still been there for Little Helmet, but out of respect, he should have kept his married children separated from his bastard child. By no means are they supposed to intermix, because again, children are innocent and they're not going to understand where this child came from, how he got here. So it's better to keep them separated. There was no point in bringing them together. For what? It's painful and embarrassing, and it's confusing enough as it is. And you're just adding more insult to injury by forcing these children to be one big happy family. Because you have to realize the sins of the unfaithful father. Both DNAs are going to be different. Now this is going to cut a little different for some folks. You have to realize some people are not spiritually designed to have children together. A lot of y'all have children that are acting out, that are just problematic, and you know, you're having all type of issues. And in many instances, none of these children are perfect, but you have to realize all DNAs don't mix. Certain people should not be conceiving children with certain people. Even animals have more common sense than human beings. And the reason that I say this is because you don't see pigs trying to conceive with crocodiles, okay? You don't see horses trying to conceive with elephants. You don't see monkeys trying to conceive with pigs, because even animals have enough sense to know that there's just certain animals way outside of their breed that they should not be intermixing with. And the problem with a lot of men and women, y'all are having unprotected sex with people who result in you having children that y'all had no business even making together. All DNAs don't mix. Some people had come from families with all type of mental issues and demonic spirits, and you wonder why your child gets here. Your child looks mean all the time. Your child is combative. Your child wants to fight. Your child is always getting all type of trouble. You really don't understand how DNA works. Some of these men that y'all are having y'all sons or children from, some of these men are very abusive. Some of these men are very combative. And you wonder why as your sons get older, they're combative, they're abusive, because it was already in their DNA from the man who you chose to have unprotected sex with. Some of these men may look good. Martell may have the looks. He may look good, but at the same time, he's no good. And if you're not a strong woman in God and you don't recognize that your child has already been given those same bad characteristics, and you don't get a grip on it, and you don't spiritually pray over that child or whatever, that child is going to be a carbon copy of his no good father. See, Mel is a praying woman, and she knows what she's up against. So I'm sure she's constantly and daily praying over Tank, watching over Tank, keeping Tank productive, so he nowhere falls into the alignment of his father. Now, Lil Helmet, on the other hand, he's going to be a carbon copy of Martell. And he's going to have more of his bad character traits than his good. Why? Because he was not supposed to be here. Say it how you will, but he is not a blessing. God don't bless no mess. You think sometimes God blesses people with children because it's a blessing? Sometimes he will allow you to have children. That way you have to deal with your sin up close and personal. It's more of a punishment than it is a privilege. And so while a lot of you side chicks around here walking around happy like you have the golden arch, the meal ticket, and you're proud, that's really your punishment that was produced in real time. A lot of y'all are having children from men who already was in violation of a marriage, but also has a lot of curses within his bloodline. And because you so badly want the man and you want to trap the man, you have a child from a man who may have a lot of generational curses. And your child will be the main target of that, because not only is the father from a family full of generational curses, but you further produced your child within a curse. And you're wondering why that child is acting out. You're wondering why that child has disciplinary issues. Oh, he's bad, he just don't listen, he's just so spoiled. No, he's been conceived under a curse. That is going to always affect him. Why? Because of the sins of the unfaithful father fall upon his son. And everything that Martell never wanted to see within himself, he's going to see it through that little boy. A lot of the times, and I'm sure some of you are parents out there, you see a lot of yourself through your children. Me, for instance, I see a lot of myself through my daughter. To being very emotional at times, being very, highly opinionated. I see a lot of myself through my daughter. So keep in mind, when you have children, especially under a curse, you're going to see a lot of your ways and a lot of your wrongdoing manifest through your children. And Martell and Arion Air Mattress is playing with it, but they're going to see a lot of their wrongdoing through that same little boy that they so happily and selfishly produced together. Because the sins of an unfaithful father fall upon his son. Now, not only that, the unfaithful father, he has to deal with the fact that his children are divided. No matter how much he puts them together, Martell knows that his children from Melody, it will never really merge with his son that he had from Arion Air Mattress. He knows there's a difference. Whether he wants to acknowledge that, whether if he wants to walk around acting like he doesn't notice the difference, trust and believe he does. Does not matter how much he forces this child into the lap of their siblings. Those kids are smart. And when they get older, he's not going to be able to keep enforcing them to accept this child who they know played a very part in a family being divided and a mother being hurt. And Martell is going to have to deal with the fact that this child is different. And he is very different. He's very different from the ones he had from Melody. Him and Melody's children did not have any disciplinary problems. Whatever disciplinary problems, I mean, it's average because no, all children aren't perfect. But Little Helmet is one of a kind. He's nothing like the siblings that he's nothing like Melody's children. He has anger issues. He's combative. We've seen him fight and hit his mom on live. We've never seen the Melody's children do it. He is a totally different breed. They have the same father, but he's a totally different breed. And he's going to be the one that's going to have a carbon copy. He's going to be an exact replica of everything damaging about Martell. So we have this issue of another son that was conceived through a curse, that's going to be cursed with all of his father and his mother's selfish, ignorant ways. You have to realize when Arion conceived him, she conceived him in anger. Because she was angry at the fact that Martell did not appear to seem as if he really wanted to leave his marriage. She carried that baby angry. And you wonder why this little boy has a angry look on his face. That's no coincidence. If you are spiritually woke and not spiritually broke, you would know that he looks angry because he was brought here in anger. He wasn't brought here in love. He was brought here in lust. He was brought here in deception. He was brought here in desperation. If you notice, that little boy looks sad or mad. Because spiritually, he can sense something is not quite right. Arion carried him angry. And she carried him out of revenge. Out of spite. So that really was not a joyful pregnancy. She cheated herself out of having a child from a man who could have truly loved her, truly adored her, truly been a really, really good father, not having to compete for his attention and affection because of other children. Out of all the men she could have chose, she chose Martell. She got desperate because she fell in lust, not love. She fell in lust with him. And he didn't appear to be making a quick decision. He kept making excuses, probably kept lying. I'm going to leave. I'm working on it. And he wasn't moving quick enough. So she made the decision to get pregnant from him. So now, you have Martell having to deal with the fact that he has 2 different sets of children from 2 different women. His son from Arion is not going to be nowhere raised like his children from Melody, because Melody is more of a woman. She has more morals, more standards, more high principles compared to Arion Air Mattress. Arion Air Mattress lets her son throw tantrums, lets him hit things when he gets mad. He's not disciplined. He's not structured. And Martell is going to find that out the hard way. Your son from Arion is not going to be nothing like your son from Melody. And all this is for a reason. It's because you produced this curse. So you're not going to inherit any real blessings coming out of this situation with Arion. That son is not going to be a blessing to you. He's going to be a burden to you and a curse to you. And it's not his fault. He's going to become a curse to you because you and Arion are cursed between yourselves. A lot of you have children from these men who you knew were no good, who you knew had already been in relationships or married, and you're disgusted because these children come here with all kind of problems. And you're angry with the father because you just want him to drop his life and just pick up where he left off and help you, knowing he was already in an established family. And yes, he does have to pay for his consequences, but at the same time, you are totally delusional if you're looking for that man to just take on this child and just love and treat this child with all type of admiration when he didn't even really have any real admiration for you. And I'm going to be honest. A lot of women are going to get offended about this. In many instances, a man treats his children the way he feels about you. Now, this isn't the case with everything, okay? You got some men who can't stand the mother of their children, who don't get along with the mother of children, and still treat the children like gold. But that's rare. In many instances, if a man has a lot of anger and resentment towards you as the mother of his children, he does not get along with you. Y'all do not have a healthy, wholesome relationship. He will not really take up with that child as much as he should because he does not want to have to deal with you in order to be a part of that child's life because, again, the bond between the both of you is very toxic. So therefore, he does not have a lot of patience to deal with you in order to deal with that child. But I'm going into an hour over this. So I'm going to get ready to wrap things up. But as a married man, when you make and create these children outside of your marriage, realize that you are creating a whole nother problem. Not a privilege, a problem. Because there's a lot that's coming behind that curse that you have created. So while you're only thinking about yourself and you're only thinking about what is benefiting you from the moment, keep in mind that you are planting a seed that's going to be a lifetime curse sentence. And it's only going to continue to keep manifesting its rearing head as the child continues to get older. Now, this is not to say God can't still bless no mess. God can change anything. God can do anything. But when you have two parents that are truly unremorseful, neither one have repented, neither one have no shame for their actions, what it does is it brings a curse upon to their children that had absolutely nothing to do with their actions. I might do a part 2. It all depends. If not, most likely I will leave it at this part here. But it's very imperative that a lot of women have to understand. When you have children from married men, you have no say-so on how that child gets treated or how that child gets accepted or not accepted. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Know the sermon has gone on for quite some time. Hit the like button. Big ups to all the mods in the chat, if you are in the chat. Big ups to my members, if you are in the chat. Big ups to my subscribers who rock with me that are in the chat. If this is your first time here, join the family. We get down over here. We get real over here. We get deep over here. I ain't the average content creator. I don't always have the tea, but I do have the tea in truth, in which I'm going to make you spiritually woke around here. For those of you who want to hibernate and act like you don't want to see things for what they are, I'm going to make sure that you do. But anyway, hit that like button, y'all. I love y'all so much. Appreciate y'all for being part of this journey, being part of the truth, and being part of wisdom. Y'all take care, and until next time, I'll be talking with y'all soon. Be blessed.